Hi, it's Mike,
And this is Fran.
and this is Mike and Fran Unrehearsed, episode 16. Hey, how's everyone doing? Hey, listen, thanks for tuning in to Mike and Fran Unrehearsed on Wednesdays at noon on 216 The Net. We're just having the time of our lives on this show, and guess what? I've got some really new announcements for you this week. We just finally got our website up and running. That's right, a website for Mike and Fran. It's called www.mikeandfriendradio.com. That's right, it's going live this week, and what you'll be able to do on there is to listen to all of our old shows, comment on our shows, have conversations about our shows, and post all your questions there and comments as well. And you can go to our old shows, let other people hear them, or replay them at any time you want. We also have an area where you can sign up to our mailing list. And what will happen if you sign up for our mailing list? Well, you'll get news on things that Mike and Fran are up to other than doing the radio show. And you'll have access to a list of local discounts with vendors that I work with on a daily basis. Some of these guys, as you probably know, are plumbers. That's Joe the plumber. Some people are in real estate. That's me. And then there's other people that offer financial advice, tax preparation ideas, and travel tips and things like that. And all of these discounts will be available for you just for listening to Mike and Fran Unrehearsed. Isn't that cool? All you need to do is to subscribe to our mailing list, and we'll send that information to you on a weekly basis. I think that's very cool. In addition to our episodes all being posted on our website, you'll also see some topical videos that I had posted on there. Well, the most recent one was the 1960 debate between Nixon and Kennedy. And Senator Kennedy and Vice President Nixon was one of the first televised debates in 1960. It was very interesting because both men were very knowledgeable, and both men wanted the same thing for our country. They just had different ways that they wanted to get that done. And I thought that was pretty interesting. Anyway, that's about it for our intro. So what's been going on this week? Well, hope you guys had a happy Halloween and were able to get the candy out to the kids. We had a little bowl out front, and guess what? We didn't have anybody come by, did we, Mom? No, I don't think we did.
Not at all.
Anyway, be safe out there. Wear your mask, social distance, and we'll all be fine. So, what happened last week in the world of sports? Well, the Bears didn't do too good on Sunday. They tried real hard, but I just don't think they have it going on for the rest of the season maybe. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. They showed some spark there towards the end, at least went into overtime, but they couldn't quite pull it off against the Saints. But that's okay. Anyway, it was a good game to watch. And then, of course, well, what's going on with baseball? Well, y'all heard the news now, right? Mr. Tony La Russa. Tony La Russa has been chosen as the new manager of the White Sox. So we'll see how that goes. But what the GM said was this. It's kind of controversial, but he said Tony was the best choice because it's believed that Tony is the best man to help us win the championship over the next several years and usher us into what we expect to be a very exciting phase for White Sox baseball, says the general manager, Rick Hahn, of the White Sox. So we'll see what happens with that. But anyway, I thought Renteria was doing a pretty good job, but I guess not. So I think the Cubs manager, David Ross's job, is still going to be safe because I think he did a lot with the Cubs last year, and they got to give him at least more than 1 year to turn things around over there. He's well loved by the players, and from what I can tell, he's a great manager. They just didn't have the hitting that they needed to get the job done this year. And it's no mystery that they did sign Anthony Rizzo to extend his contract for at least through the end of this year. And then don't count out John Lester for good. So he might be a possibility, even though they declined his $25 million option. But I'm sure he's willing to hang around if things are going to be looking up for the Cubs. So that's about it for sports. What else is new, Mom?
Well, Sean Connery died,
Oh, that's right.
passed away.
And he was 90 years old, right? Mm-hmm. Born in 1930. And I remember Sean Connery. He had that distinguishable voice, being a Scotsman that he was. And I remember him saying, Bond, James Bond, right? Mm-hmm. Right? He was known for that and The Untouchables and a bunch of other movies. But he certainly had a way with his words, didn't he?
Well, he was Sir. He had been knighted by the Queen in UK.
Sir Sean Connery.
Yeah,
right?
he had a first name in there he never used. He was known as Sean Connery. He also said he would answer Connery, Sean Connery, like James Bond. He lived a long time in the Bahamas, and this is where he passed away. I think I had read somewhere that he wanted to avoid the severe taxes in the UK.
Oh, okay.
He was married twice and had 2 sons, and he was always a hero, always this dashing person. I think he looked so much better when he got older with the gray hair and the mustache and the beard and things, and I thought he looked too pretty boy when he was younger. But I liked him in the movie The Man Who Would Be King with Michael Caine. Of course, I watched the Bonds, and I was, for Halloween, I was James Bond's mother. Started working at 13 from a rather poor family, and he worked on caskets, and he was a model. He also, like for bathing suits and things, and
He was a bathing suit model when he was young?
Yes.
Wow.
And then he got into acting the films and things.
What was it you said that he was talking about?
He was talking about, somebody asked him about if he had ever worked with Katharine Hepburn.
Okay.
And he said no, he hadn't, but he had read some of the things she had said, and they were very substantial. And I thought that was a great word. When he said it with his Scotch, substantial.
That would be substantial.
Oh, I thought it was great. So he will be missed as I liked him.
That's for sure. I know most of you are hoping that 2020 just goes away and disappears, but we're not quite there yet, right? Anyway, remember, you got to fall back around this time of year, so I hope you all put your clocks 1 hour behind, and that would have been done on Saturday, so if you haven't done it yet, you're in big trouble. Anyway, hey, Halloween was last weekend. Mom, did we get any trick-or-treaters?
Nope, not a one.
Not a one. Well, Mom and I like to have a little dark chocolate on hand every once in a while, but I can do without the Skittles. So we put those out there, and guess what? They're coming back in the house. So I don't know, we'll figure out what to do with them. So anyway, hope you all had a happy Halloween and played it safe and made it real easy for the kids to get their candy. I don't know if you had to come up with a tube or something like that, but we saw some interesting ways to distribute the candy on the news the other night. So I hope you all had fun with that. I wound up going to a scary late night showing at the McHenry Drive-In on Saturday, and they had the original Dracula, the original Frankenstein, and Wolfman. And actually, the Wolfman I rather enjoyed. I remember seeing a show called Creature Features, which always showed those little snippets of the Wolfman creeping around, walking on his toes, and sticking his face between 2 trees. And it was always like really dark and sort of cloudy and mysterious. And I don't know why he walked on his tippy toes, but that's what he did. I mean, he was a real strapping man that played that part, but I don't know why he walked on his tippy toes. I thought that was funny because we saw the whole rest of the movie, but actually it was pretty good. So anyway, I would recommend going to your local drive-in movie when they open up again next year. I guess it would be, right?
Yes, that was the last night.
Yeah. Well, that would be in the spring when they
Last
open up.
Saturday.
We have 2 of them in Illinois.
Yeah.
One is in McHenry. It's called the Outdoor Theater there. It's really a lot of fun. Of course, they were limited on a certain amount of cars and all that, but hey, what the heck? Got to check it out. All right. And please remember to vote. So this is the last week for that, right? Because the polls close on Tuesday at 7 o'clock, as I understand it. And if you have a mail-in ballot in your hand, you need to drop it off at your local post office so that it gets counted, because it's too late to get in there by mail, is what I've been told. So I'm going to actually go to our polling place right here, Lake Barrington Shores, and I'm going to put my ballot in the box, and I want a Seco in there to make it count. And you should all do the same. So please vote, and we'll see what happens, good or bad, hopefully sometime next week. And all of this fiasco of all of these debates and all of this advertising will finally go away after next week. Whew! It'll be a new world, hopefully. Anyway, that's all I can say about that. Right, Mom? Mm-hmm. You already voted. Yeah.
Yes, much earlier.
I'll vote on Tuesday. All right, Mom. So I actually have a question for you. When we were growing up on Northampton Circle over there in Elk Grove Village, we used to walk to the high school through the forest preserve. There was a little path that went up near Salt Creek, up around over the bridge, and then we were in school. And it was great. But I remember as a kid, there were these trees that grew these weird kind of grapefruit-sized green sort of balls or fruit of some kind. They were real lumpy and bumpy and hard as a rock, as I remembered. We didn't know what they were. We called them monkey balls, I think, is what we called them. And we would actually roll them on the road over the highway and see cars hit them, and they would just smash them. I don't know. I mean, as a kid, that's what we did for a little bit. But we didn't cause any accidents, so, we were careful about what we did. But I do not recommend that at home. Please.
I wouldn't approve. That's for sure.
Of course not. You probably didn't even know that until I mentioned it, right?
No.
No, I'm in trouble. So anyway, Mom was reading the paper, and there happened to be a very interesting article about monkey balls, or monkey brains, or...
Osage oranges.
Okay, Osage oranges, supposedly, is what they were called. They were all green, like a light green, like oobleck green from like Dr. Seuss. They're just odd little things. They're not little. They're like a softball-sized fruit, hard as a rock. Now, Mom found out a lot of interesting things. What did you find out, Mom?
Well, when I lived there, and we were all watching, the kids had picked up a few of these. I went down, it was just the end of our street there, and went in and picked up a few off of the ground, and they were size of grapefruit or large oranges and pebbly. And I would take them to my class, and we'd talk about the Indians and the wood and the stuff a little bit. Mm-hmm. And but I really had looked up a little bit to find out that Lewis had mentioned to Thomas Jefferson that how much the Osage oranges, as they were called, these trees, how much they were important to the Indians, and they would go for many, many hundreds of miles to get the wood for the bows.
Really?
It had the best wood.
So they actually used the wood from the trees for bow and arrows?
For the bow, not the arrows, for the bow.
For the bow.
Because it was bend and it was very workable.
Wow.
And so the wood for the bows was very prized. Now, they used that wood also for fences. It took 100 years sometimes for them to fall down. They were very sturdy and stood a long while. Huh. And then they planted the trees in rows close together to make a hedge. And they would bush out, have thorns, and be thick. And they were great for hedges around fields. Huh. And there used to be a joke or something like horses, cows, pigs couldn't get through them and like that. Then the hedges were used later when they didn't need them for fences for breaks in the wind breaks on farms down in southern Illinois.
Huh. Interesting.
And they also used this wood for the rims on wheels on wagons because they were pliable and worked so well. But they didn't use them as hedges after 1874 because a man in DeKalb in our state, Joseph Glidden, came up with the electric or the barbed wire. the barbed wire. So that was what protected.
So that's why we have
the wire.
Annie Glidden Road over
Yeah.
there, Northern University. Yeah,
That is correct.
Yeah,
that
named
is
after-
correct, because
named
he
after
was
Glidden.
from DeKalb.
Yeah. So are you saying that in prehistoric times these
Oh,
fruits
yeah.
were there? I mean, how old are they? I
They
mean,
make a joke on them and saying that they were back in the early time of the dinosaurs and they liked to eat them and the foliage. Because how could we prove that for sure? But the Indians really didn't eat them. I read in one book that the Indians, when they had a particularly bad time for 3 or 4 years with no food, they would eat them, but they weren't that edible. Now the only thing that gets at them is squirrels, and they eat the seeds. Well, you said you cut one open and said what
well,
it
we
looked
smashed
like.
them and stuff, and we broke them open, and it was
That
sort of
milk.
like this, sort of like a milky kind of almost like a coconut or something, like that would
Yeah.
drip out of it a little bit. It was kind of sticky, milky kind of stuff. I don't know. I didn't think about like taking it home and frying it up and trying to eat it or anything
Mm-hmm.
like that. I mean, they seemed inedible to me. Like,
Well, this was sort of like the Giving Tree, one of my favorite books, a tree that came on giving and giving. It also, the wood could be made into beautiful vases or wooden objects to be carved. The wood was beautiful, dark. And then the dyes of the roots and things were used to make khaki material during World War I, because it turned out to be a khaki color, like a
Interesting.
tan and a brown that came from it.
really?
So it was a most useful tree, and
But not the fruit. Just
not the
tree.
fruit, not the fruit.
So only
They were called sometimes hedge apples.
Oh,
Hedge apples, monkey balls, monkey brains.
Monkey
when I went
brains.
to the class, the kids, we all joked to the name monkey brains. They look like a brain, the outside.
Yeah, they
They're
did.
pebbly
They did.
like a brain. And it's just interesting to see there was an article recently in the paper about the Osage oranges, or monkey brains, monkey balls, as they're called.
that's what we call them.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So-
we happen to have these trees clustered together down at the edge of the Forest Preserve in Elk Grove Village.
So these monkey balls
May not be there now.
brains could have been the trees that they grew on that prehistoric man
No,
used
it's
to cut a wheel.
they
Oh, it's
would
a
have
miracle. It's a wheel.
they would have died out over the long time. No.
You don't think so?
No, not at all.
Oh, I thought
not
that
at
would have
all.
been a pretty cool story.
This place there at one time was all more or less flat land before the trees. Then the trees came in. No.
But when was the wheel invented? I mean, way back when. Who knows?
Took a long while.
Well, anyway.
Anyway, it was an interesting article. I didn't realize the tree had so many good things coming from it.
Very interesting. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, Mom, so here's a question for you. When you were a child, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, it depends on how little I was, because I changed on a lot of things.
Well, child.
When I was quite younger, I wanted to be an actress because I always went around mimicking other people. And I was called Little Garbo.
Oh.
And I would always say
Greta
to my
Garbo?
uncles, yeah, I want to be alone, trying to mimic the Swedish.
Did you look
And,
like Greta Garbo when you were young?
No, not at all. She was a very handsome woman, very pretty. No,
Come
I
on,
did
you
not.
weren't handsome
But
and
I
pretty?
was called Little Garb because
Okay.
of my I want to be alone. I didn't want to be with people all the time.
Oh, I see. And that's how she was, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
and a
okay.
singer. I wanted to be a singer at one time and yodel in that. I had a chance to do that later, but didn't pursue it that far.
Could you give us a little sample of your yodeling?
No, I cannot. I don't
That would
think
be
so.
great.
Eedaloo-yay, eedaloo, oh, I don't remember.
Oh,
I
that's
haven't
great.
done it for so many years.
Wow, I'm going to work on
And as I said, I wanted to be an archaeologist.
Oh.
And I don't really know why, but at things from very small, I was always interested in what you could find of past histories and countries. I read the Smithsonian now all the time about all of these digs and things. And I went on a dig once out in the Rockford area, out on the Mississippi, banks of the Mississippi.
You did? When did you do that?
And I think I was taking a class in college to become a teacher in this state because I had about 190 some credits from the University of Oregon, but I had to apply for ones that could be used only in the state of Illinois that I
Okay.
had not had.
Okay.
So I
So this was like an elective then?
wasn't elective. I
No?
was just taking these extra classes to
Okay.
get credit.
Okay.
And I went on this digs with the hard hat, and when they would have a big dig a train going through a hill or something, we would go there on the sides of the hill. And it was so fascinating. When I was hanging on the edge of the Mississippi with my feet in these crevices, they said, "Be careful, there's rattlesnakes in there." Well, that kind of scared me a little bit, but it was great. But I always felt that would be a great thing to travel to all different countries and dig for interesting things to show history, what had gone on many years before. But I also then, at another time, since I was very athletic, had wanted to be a tennis player because I could outrun all the boys through 8th grade. I was physically very fit, and I liked sports a lot and felt if I kept up with it, I could have been an excellent tennis player. But when I went to college, I was going there for dress design and for fashion illustration is what I worked for, an interior deck. But I never really did any of those things. So what did I become? A teacher, where I feel I encompassed all of these things.
Right.
You had to be athletic and on your feet to get around. I think you enveloped the singing and acting as part of how you presented yourself in your class with kids. And archaeologists, I make a joke on you dig into all history and things. Anyway, it was something I liked dearly. But these were things that I had considered and what I wanted to be when I grew up. Oh, what did you want to be, Michael?
Well, I guess as a kid, I was kind of interested in space and, flying and superpowers and stuff like that. So I was probably interested in maybe being an astronaut for a little bit there, and then maybe being somebody like Superman with superpowers where you can fly and do all these things without any trouble and, be super duper about everything that you do. Or maybe I just wanted to be a fireman. Because I know I had one of those little firemen, like a fire engine that I kind of rode around on with the little pedals that went back and forth, and you guys probably had to put it together. I had a ladder on the side. I don't know what I was doing. I think the other kids had them too. I would put a ladder on a fire hydrant and climb the fire hydrant. Why would I do that? Why would I do that?
I don't know if we put it together or not. It seems like so many things we purchased for the Santa Claus in the family that we were up to 5 o'clock in the morning putting it together, like a stove for the girls or little cabinets. And it seems like we had to put a bit of these fire engines together. Working there for 5 kids took us forever.
Yeah, but that's how it was with 5 kids and Christmas Eve. You got to put all this stuff together, whether it's a bike or a swing set or whatever it was. So as a kid, that's probably what I wanted to be. But then when I grew up, I got interested in engineering area because I always thought I'd have a good paying job and it was high tech. I was always interested in technology and high tech kind of things, which were pretty cool. And I got a job in that area, and I decided that wasn't for me. So I kind of lean more towards the performing arts these days. And when I was a kid, I really wasn't that interested. I was probably petrified about being on stage or making a public speech or being in front of people. I mean, I played the violin, but that was pretty intense.
In groups.
When we had our first contest, when you're like 10 years old and you're playing for these people and they're grading you on 7 things, and the very best you can get was a 7 if they graded you a 1 on each thing. And my first contest that I did, I got a 7. Yeah. And I played very well.
You were musically inclined.
Yeah. Well, I mean, people ask, why did you play violin? And this is what I tell them. Because they asked me to play violin. Because in 4th grade, when you're 9 years old, they bring all the string instruments. When you're in 5th grade and when you're 10 years old, they bring all the band instruments, all the horns and things. And if I would have known that, I might have played the violin. But I'm glad that I did. And these days, I play the guitar now. I play a little harmonica. I play a little keyboards, and I have Dad's mandolin, which I would love to learn how to play, besides just kind of plucking on it because it's tuned exactly like a violin, which is cool, but it's double strings. And we still have it. And my friend Jana looked at it, and she said, it really sounds good, even after all those years. I think he bought it in like 1943 for like $16 or something like that, which is crazy. So anyway, I'm sort of a modern day Renaissance man where I have a lot of interests. I love to entertain. I love to make people laugh. And I love to do things that are enjoyable with groups of people and, fun things. Mm-hmm. But I have many interests. I'm not just interested in one thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of interesting, but my dad was a film editor that worked his way up through night school and worked at WBBM TV,
CBS.
Channel 2 News, CBS for like 25 years. Excuse me. But he never actually encouraged me to get involved in that area. He wasn't really that happy about the work, to be honest with you.
Well, he was proud that you wanted to be an engineer.
Well, I mean, maybe it was something that he never aspired to be, and he thought that would be a step up from where he was, and that was great that his son wanted to study engineering. But I didn't know anything about engineering at 18 years old. I wish I would have done like a co-op. That way I would have learned what an actual engineer did, and then I would have maybe modified my degree or maybe changed it entirely, because Southern Illinois University was a great school for radio and TV, and that's what you got into if you wanted to be a newscaster or a reporter or a journalist or these kind of things, which I'm 10 times more interested in now than I ever was then. So, I had struggled through college, and I did finally get my bachelor's degree in engineering, but it wasn't for me long term. But what's interesting, though, is when I was down there was a lot of other people down there because SIU was a good school for English as a second language. And so I hung around with my Japanese friends, my Iranian friends, my friends from Iraq, and it was great because I could always hang around my people from Chicago. But when I was down there, I invited them to come home for holidays, and I learned about their cultures. And I think you really need to be sort of, interested in how other people live and how other cultures are different from ours to be truly worldly and appreciate what we have and maybe, work to improve the life of others and those that are around us.
Yeah.
And that's partly why I still do the ESL classes every week. So
well, people used to ask why all of my son's friends, we used to have the rice pot. They'd come up and keep their rice pot on all the time here.
Yeah.
Or we would have all the people visiting. Went down there, we said, well, don't you have any American friends? And he said, these people were so interesting. He did. He lived with them, but he just really enjoyed talking to these people. And I think one of the things was Michael was a listener. A lot of people, when they meet people, talk over and tell everything, but he was willing to sit and listen to them because he wanted to hear about their life.
I think that's very important. Yeah, and there's just so many, different things with other cultures that you would never know about unless you talk to them and learn about them and ask them questions about their culture. In Japan, I learned there was like one word that means. For example, if I bought a lawnmower and it didn't work as well as it did when it was brand new, and I fixed it so that it was better than what it was when it was brand new, there's one word that means that. That motor is, or that lawnmower is this, and that's what it means, is that I fixed it and it was better than when it was new. And there's different words like that in different languages, and the food and the culture, it's all very intriguing to me. And, I want to be worldly, so I have to be familiar with all those things, right? Right?
Yep.
If you want to be a worldly person, then...
Well, these people are so interesting. We watch the Japanese channel.
That's right, we do.
That's it for now. Goodbye. See you next week. Fran and Mike.